Hey folks, my name's Kevin and it's time for some knife nerdery that I'm very excited about. If you watched my unboxing of this, you'll know how much I loved the Herman Knives vespertilio. I think this knife is incredible, and in large part because of what it just did. Did you hear that? I love the sounds this thing makes. Oh my gosh, this thing is freaking crazy. I absolutely love it. And so as a result, I have been on the hunt for a different knife from him, the Sting. The Sting is a knife that's a little bit larger than this, but I thought it was much bigger because he's got a couple of knives that look kind of similar at a glance. And if you don't read the specs, it's easy to mix up which one's which. And I thought the Sting was a bigger knife, but I was talking to my friend Noah, the same guy who helped me find this. And he reminded me that the Sting is indeed exactly in that size range that I personally really like. And then, because he knew I was hunting for one, he's been hunting for one on my behalf. And he found someone in a Facebook group that was willing to sell me this one. So let's take a look inside. I will say that one of the reasons I really love this Sting is because of this low point and how easy it is to do these kinds of piercing cuts. Ooh, just glides right through that. Ooh, like that. Well taped. Lots of tape. Trying to be careful because the I want to cut the COA. There we are. So this certificate of authenticity is not quite as in pristine a shape as the last one, but oof, aren't these things freaking cool? Oh, that is so cool. Polish Custom Knives, I'm telling you, you guys are doing great. I'm hoping that the tool is in the pouch, because it's not in this. Let's find out. This is, by the way, Sting number 82 in M390, and yeah, the rest of it's tie and carbon fiber backspacer. Okay. Okay, there is our tiny little tool. Although, this time around, this tool is not particularly necessary because while it is a slightly lobed, kind of slightly exaggerated torque, supposedly this works as a standard Torx bit. We will find out. And here is the knife. Ooh, yeah. Oh, that is beautiful. So one of the reasons I was really excited to find this one is because in my video on the vespertilio, I mentioned how on the back, he does this really cool thing where he makes a captive pivot by making the pivot itself shaped in a way where the pivot can't spin. So he doesn't have to do any kind of D shape on the pivot bar. And so this thing itself makes it captive. And how cool is that? But I mentioned that he does versions with super fancy milling like, oh, okay, I'm going to zoom in on that because this is too good. This is too good to not zoom in. Oh my gosh. Wow. And he even does it on the front. Oof. Oof. Oh, that is stinking beautiful. Okay, so we have a moment of truth time because is this going to make the same kind of sound? Right off the bat, I noticed that the flipper tab is markedly different, but I think the portion that you're pressing on doesn't really look very different. So, whoa, is it going to do it? Is it going to do it? Is it going to do it? It does! Oh, oh, I love it. Now, I will say this one has a stronger detent. This one does this thing where that's like, it's like weirdly crispy. And this one is not quite as weirdly crispy. It does not have quite the same initial ting. This has, yeah, so this is doing something weird. So this one doesn't have quite as strong of a detent and not as quite as initial ting, but these sounds as it falls off the lock bar. Oh, I love it. So what I've found from playing with this one is that is almost entirely coming from the lock bar itself. This lock bar, it's a surprisingly kind of springy lock bar. It's very bendy, and it's attached to the very back here, and as a result, this thing just makes like a jaw harp or like what are those called? Finger piano type noise. And the same thing is happening here. It has a very specific kind of springiness to it. It's attached all the way in the back. There is really extensive milling in there. Do you see that? I wonder if I can get backlighting to be better. There we are. Reflect that light back in. Wow, look at that. It's really cool looking too, the shape of it. And then there's milling along the top. Can you see that right here? Kind of, a little bit. There is a landing zone right here for your finger. The entire knife is a thicker knife. I wonder if I can hold those up in a way that'll feel meaningful. Yeah, you can see the knife itself is thicker. And I think that means that this kind of contouring that he does feels even more pronounced because this has a bigger, rounder in your hand type feel to it. Ooh, that feels nice. Oh yeah, that feels very, very nice in my hand. I will say that this pocket clip, being as long as it is a little bbit odd to me in my hand. Also, by the way, having these side by side really shows that this is indeed a blue tone. When I took this apart, I saw that there was like a haze of blue anodization. So there is a very light blue anodization to this that really kind of shows off when you have a version that's not blue. This one even looks kind of slightly bronze to me, but I think that is just my eyes playing tricks. I mean, looking at the back color here, I'll have to hold this up to some knives that are very distinctly not anodized at all to see the comparison. The clip itself has a distinct different shape. I wonder if this one, because this is made, where does it say, right? It says somewhere in here. Where is that lettering? Right there. Right there. Oh, I'm not going to have any kind of light, am I? Right here it says Sting 2021. So this isn't a terribly old knife, but the 2021 is almost over. And so I don't know if he'll have changed this clip at all. I don't know which one of these was made. I'll have to check the COA date. But you can see that it has much more of like a hook shaped right there. So I imagine this will probably cling in your pocket a little bit better. This also is just such a thicker clip. This is like very, very thin and bendy, and this is like so much thicker of the metal here and way more retention. You can also see that he's milled this landing pad right here, and he doesn't on the vespertilios. I don't think he does that even on the modern ones, the brand new ones that he just released. I think he still doesn't do that, but maybe he'll add that in at some point because it's nice to have that spot, especially if you're going to have a stronger lock bar and that little kind of hook at the bottom. So I imagine this is going to be good, but what I was originally mentioning is the length here, and that length makes it hit in my hand in a slightly different space than I'm used to. It's not uncomfortable, but on most knives, the end of this clip tends to hit somewhere in this range, and that's kind of just what I'm used to feeling in my hand. And this one comes up to the point where it's hitting all the way up here. And I wouldn't say it's uncomfortable, but I feel it in a way I'm not used to, and that means that it stands out in a way that I'm not used to. But overall, yeah, the lines here, the way that this shape is, yeah, that feels really, really nice. The finish on this blade is dramatically different. I think they're both listed as a stone wash, but they're very, very different. I'll have to see what he actually calls this. Does he say on the COA? It does not say on the COA. I'll have to look up what it's listed as on the website. But this has like very clearly a stone wash. It's a very even stone wash, so I think it's a very beautiful stone wash, but it's very clearly a stone wash. And this is like an exceptionally light, kind of cloudy stone wash. It's almost bright in a way. Huh. So I looked it up, and this is indeed described as just a stone wash. But this is also described as just a stone wash. And these days he also has a version that he calls a shiny stone wash, which doesn't look like either of these. But this, to me, see if I can get it to focus in a way you can see. Yeah, it's got this kind of like frosted look that is super uniform and honestly very pretty looking. And I realized where I recognize it from. I don't mean like where they got it from, but I realize what else looks like that in my collection. And the only thing that it does are my Shirogorov neons. This is an R20 and a neon light. And they both have this same kind of like frosted, very uniform, delicate stonewash thing going on. The finish just has this very light, frosty kind of texturing to it, but still very shiny. And I don't know, maybe if I zoom in, maybe you'll be able to see these details. Yeah, so it's a very specific kind of stonewash. Hey, there's my face. And that is similar to what I see going on over here. It's a very uniform, kind of frosted, cloudy, shiny still thing going on. Huh. Anyway, I think that's really cool. I tend to like stonewash finishes like this a whole heck of a lot, but I think it pairs really well with this design too. This one, I think this finish would look maybe a little bit better on a knife that doesn't have as much of a stone wash on the handles, because right now it feels like there's kind of a disparity between these two. And I think that the amount of texturing on this kind of balances the amount of texturing on this more. Whereas on a knife like that, or even a knife like this, the fact that this is so flat here means that this feels pretty balanced to me. And this feels a little bit unbalanced in that regard, but man, I'm just nitpicking as all hell. This is a freaking gorgeous knife. Yeah, that is very, very easy. I'm gonna have to figure out how the best way to open this is, because I do suspect that this is probably a knife I could fail. Yeah, I was able to. Interesting. And so somewhere between the flipper tab and the shape of it and the way that the detent is working, I'll have to figure out how best to get this one to open. Because I really like the amount of noise it makes whenever it opens very snappily. Looks like I'm figuring that out already. Yeah, oh, that sounds so good. One thing I'll say right off the bat is that I like the way that this looks right here. And this is gonna be an incredibly small detail, but look at that. This is the only thing on this knife that stylistically really bugs me. Maybe I'll change my mind about that later, but this little gap right here just feels wrong. Like it just feels like it doesn't belong there. And the fact that you don't have that here, you can see that he has a similar thing where he's looping back around, which the reason why you would do that is because that loops back around on the stop pin when it hits it, and it spreads the force out around that entire spot rather than just hitting on that one little tiny edge. And so this gives you a more solid lockup in that way, but it means that you're left with these little hooks. And it's a less pronounced hook for sure. Like, look at that, that's such a deeper hook. And so maybe he could have gotten away with making this shallower, moving this back just slightly and making that hole not show up. Yeah, the way that this makes this noise, that is so different. There's something weird about this knife that makes it do that. I think there's a micro burr, but it looks intentional. I don't know, we'll find out when I do I'll do a full small details review of this, and I'll try to get to the bottom of that noise. You just don't have it over here. Oh, I love it. Oh, I love it. Okay, I will need to stop rambling. Oh, you know what's something that he did? He moved the clip up higher. And as a result, these screws, which kind of crowd together, that's another thing I've thought about, that there's these screws that just kind of form this corner of screw mania. Over here, it's a lot cleaner because you have only the tiny little dots, and these body screws get hidden down in this well. And that does mean that you have to take the clip off in order to take it to the knife apart. But it just means that they get hidden from most angles, like from there all the way to there. You can't see them at all. And so I think this just looks cleaner. God, look at that milling. Wow, that's gorgeous. Yeah, this is incredible. There are elements about the way that this one operates that I think I like better, and there are elements about the way this one's shaped that I think I like better from my personal taste. But I love the blade. I love the blade being like a Wharncliffe, or kind of, I guess, I don't know if I'd consider this more Wharncliffe-y. It's got a very sharp corner, but it looks more Wharncliffe-y than sheep's footy to me by a lot because of how piercy this is. And so, I don't know. I like both of these a heck of a lot. Wow, they're freaking pretty. I'm so stunned by them that I'm rambling. So that means it's a good time to call it end. But first, wow, yeah, that's thin. Wow, yeah, that's thin. And yep, that sharpening choil is done very well. Okay. The very short version is that I am pleased as punch. Gosh, that's gorgeous. Okay, catch you next time. Thanks.